Loz, a real grind out this evening, another kind of hard-fought win here at the Athletic Ground for the second week in a row. 31-19 over Scottish. Just tell us what a physical one that was.
Yeah, it was a weird game. I think we didn't help ourselves with the amount of penalties we gave away. With the new tackle laws, we didn't really adjust that well. We kept hitting above the armpits, and Dean Richards was pretty sweet and hot and on that defensive. I think we gave away 8 high tackles, which is, you're never going to be in the game very easily if you're giving away that many penalties. You're just giving easy field position. I don't think we went many phases over 3 or 4 phases in attack. So yeah, it just kind of nipped ourselves in the bud, really.
Yeah, let's talk about that first 20 minutes. That was certainly away from home, probably our best rugby of the season. We kind of flew in front. It looked like we were just going to run away with it, but you know, three early tries, and it was a great start, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were really clinical. We worked on those set piece plays through the week, and they came off. Everyone executed beautifully, but I don't know if it's complacency or anything like that that let them back in. But yeah, we're very happy with that first 20 minutes.
Yeah, you just mentioned that 10-12. I think it was for Dave Johnson's try where you and Craig kind of combined very nicely. How did you feel that went this evening?
Yeah, it was good. We didn't really get into. We didn't have enough ball really to execute everything we wanted to go with me and Craig. But yeah, no, it was good. It worked well through the week. It just wasn't really the game, and it was just hard to get going, really.
Yeah. Then let's just talk about what happened before half time. What were we? Was it 21-0 up, I think, and then literally looked like we were absolutely cruising, and then before we know it, at half time it's 19-20. They were certainly back in it anyway. Is that lapse of concentration, perhaps?
I don't know. It's completely penalties. I'd put it down to the penalties. I don't know what the complete penalty account was, but it's we played beautifully in those first 20 minutes, and then we ended up defending in our own half for a lot of time, exiting and then giving away a penalty and just putting pressure on pressure, which inevitably told towards the end of the first half.
Yeah, they scored pretty early in the second half as well to cut the gap to just 2 points. Tell us how hard it was to wrestle back that momentum in the kind of middle quarter.
Yeah, it was tricky. The yellow card as well didn't help, but I think we game managed all right, pretty well, and got ourselves back in the game. And yeah, it's always tricky when we go down to 14 men, but I think I think we conceded 1 try, and then just slowed the ball down and wound the clock down until we came back on. I think we worked well after that.
Yeah, in similar fashion to last week, it seemed in the last 20 minutes we kind of struck it back to basics a little bit, just kind of kicked the corners, stopped giving away so many penalties, and then it obviously bared from that. We scored 2 late tries to kind of take control. Again, it seemed like the game control in those last 20 minutes was pretty good.
Yeah, we went back to basics, exactly what you said.
Yeah.
We didn't play anything flash. We just tried to put pressure on them. We'd had the pressure on us for pretty much the middle 40 minutes, and we just said to each other, look, let's not do anything flash, let's not take any risks, let's put the pressure back on them and see what happens. And yeah, it came off in the end. Bit of a hairy moment at the end, just making sure we're winding down the clock, but we don't want to be in those positions again. We pride ourselves, we want to really be ruthless, and we weren't ruthless enough, really.
Yep. Just as a whole, the fact that we've got this kind of tricky Friday night as well. I know it's obviously not an easy place to come, so perhaps not the performance we were after, but as a result, we must be pretty happy with that, I imagine.
100%. Look, we're back in the group. We wanted 5 points away on a Friday night, and we got it. Not exactly very attractive, yeah, but we got it. We're back in the group, and then we're just lining ourselves up for away in Jersey for a showdown to win the group, pretty much. Yeah,
as someone who's played in the Championship for a fair few years, tell us how positive that is to come here 2 weeks in a row and get 2 bonus point wins.
Yeah, it's a tricky place. If I'm honest, the last couple of years at my former club, we weren't very successful, yeah, coming up here. And it's a strange concept, just driving to the game, yeah, which I'm not used to. But it's massive. It's absolutely massive. It's a hard place to come. Richmond's a tough, gritty team, and Scottish are exactly the same, and we're chuffed to get 5 points pretty much.
Do you think in the last couple of weeks we've kind of shown a different side to ourselves? Obviously at the start of the season we tended to be kind of blowing teams away a bit in the first half, but the fact that we've kind of had to really grind out a couple of kind of good away victories can really kind of bring a bit of optimism to the group, perhaps.
Yeah, it shows character. We've had at the first start of the season we had it easy with scoring tries with Will, and our defence kind of let us down, but the last couple of weeks we've been relying on our defence, and I think what we're practicing is really paying dividends now. As long as we sort the penalty count out, I think it will show that our defence is really coming on leaps and bounds. And so yeah.
So we're back to Trailfinders Sports Club next weekend. It feels like it's been a while. We'll be back at home against London Scottish again. So another chance to perhaps kind of put more pressure on Jersey in the group and move forward.
Yeah, it's a very strange concept playing a team 2 weeks in a row. I'm sure we'll have to switch it up, bring in some new moves and stuff like that. But yeah, it's exciting to be back on the plastic and be on a Saturday in front of the crowd. It'll be good fun.
Well done, mate. Glen, a real hard-fought one this evening. We leave the Athletic Ground with a 31-19 win over London Scottish. Give us your thoughts after that one.
Well, I'll take the result first of all, Shappers. Yeah, I mean, obviously pleasing to get a win away from home. Mixed emotions really, I think, afterwards in the huddle. Obviously a certain element of frustration with how we sort of went 21 points up in the first sort of 25 minutes of the game, and then sort of a lot of ill discipline, and then they creep back in it, and suddenly it's half time, it's 21-14, there's only one score in it, and then second half I think we struggled really to sort of impose our game on them. We didn't manage to get through many phases. It felt like we were defending for large periods of the game, and you know, little bits of detail are applying the pressure back on us. You know, we lose a line out 5 metres from their line, and then suddenly we're conceding in the opposite corner with a man in the bin. So those momentum swings, I think we didn't help ourselves at time, which is obviously frustrating. We'll have to work hard because we get a go again next week against them, but at the same time obviously to grind out the win, get the bonus point, obviously pleasing with that.
There doesn't seem to be an awful lot of middle ground with us. That first 20 minutes we looked absolutely outstanding. It kind of, to be honest, it looked like we were going to run away with the win, and then two kind of lapses of concentration, and before we know it we're only 2 points ahead, and they're kind of battering on our line. It must be a fairly difficult watch.
Yeah, well, we sort of just said in the huddle after the game there, Wardy went, you know, lads, we did some outstanding stuff in that game, and then we did some absolutely rubbish. And you know, we can't. You just can't do that at this level. You're just going to gift teams opportunities like we did. I mean, we're throwing intercept pass again. You know, it's happening too often for us, and we put pressure back on ourselves when, like you say, really, you know, we could have been. They go in with nothing at half time. Suddenly it's a different ball game. All the pressure's back on them. But we fed them hope. I think that sort of 10 minutes before half time, 5 minutes after half time, really fed their hope in the game. They got their tails back up, and then our discipline just wasn't good enough. Too many dual penalties, offsides. You know, I think the penalty count was something like 15 penalties against. I mean, you're not going to give yourself a chance if you're giving away that many penalties in the game. I think obviously one of the very pleasing things from the game, which obviously helped us, was our line out D. You know, we already spoke about afterwards the game. He said, you know, probably our line out D won us the game in terms of we're giving that many penalties away. We're defending 15 line outs, but we managed to put a lot of pressure on there, which is obviously a real pleasing take away from the game. But next week we can't be affording to be that ill disciplined, otherwise we'll come unstuck.
Yeah, you've mentioned the discipline. How is that kind of fixable? Because it does seem like there are an awful lot of penalties being conceded.
Yeah, I mean,
I know, obviously, sorry, just to add to that, I know there's the new tackle height law as well, which probably doesn't help.
Yeah, well, I think the new tackle height law definitely doesn't help, but you've got to have that ability to be able to adapt to that. And I mean, the first couple of games, we were one of the lowest teams in terms of giving penalties away for high shots, and then all of a sudden we've come here tonight and we've given away a stupid amount. And you know, I think there's got to be a certain amount of ownership from the players as well with that. You know, you talk about discipline. You know, we see boys tackling low, and then all of a sudden they decide to tackle high, and I think that's just having a little bit of pride in what you're doing. Because ultimately, yeah, the new tackle law is difficult, but it's the same for every team. And we're going to have to make sure we'll have to do a lot of work on that this week, because we can't be giving that many away next week. Yeah,
let's just go back to the start of the game. That first 20 minutes, we looked absolutely outstanding. You must have been delighted with the way we kind of came flying out the blocks.
Oh yeah, massive. I mean, we have been, we've only had the odd game where we haven't started very well, and this one we really did come out the blocks. I think it was perfect. We said that we really wanted to go at them with our maul this evening, and obviously the first 5 minutes, 3 mauls in the bottom corner, yellow card, and a try. You couldn't probably ask for a better start than that. And you know, I think what we did really well in the first sort of 20 minutes of the game as well is we didn't overplay in our half. We spoke about playing a little bit higher up the field, and I thought Jordan Burns' kicking game today was outstanding, and it gave the forwards then a platform to to really go at them when we got in sort of the attacking half. So that was really pleasing. Obviously we'll have to make sure we try and start as well as that, but then try and sustain it then, not just doing it for 20 minutes. We've got to try and keep the foot on the gas for the full 80.
Yeah, you mentioned the rolling mauls there. They seem to have come on leaps and bounds in the last few weeks. So a couple last week and a couple this week would have given us a couple of very good victories.
Yeah. Well, I think we scored a fair few tries this year off first phase, so it's actually nice to get the maul going as well. We've been doing a lot of work on it. It's fair to the boys; they have been working really hard, and I think it's just ironing out a few little bits of detail that's been really good. And also, half the time with the maul, it's about actually having that collective buy-in, and I think we had that tonight. We really did, and it paid dividends. And obviously, the thing is, we're playing them again next week now, so it's quite unfamiliar, isn't it? Playing the same team twice on the bounce, so they're obviously going to be making sure they come out and try and rectify that next week. And we'll have to make sure a bit of a longer turnaround this week that we can keep kicking on with that. And it's good to be able to have strengths where we can launch our attack from different areas, not just with the maul, but with our first phase, with our backs, and makes it more difficult then for them to defend. So yeah, quite pleasing for the forwards on the whole.
Yeah, just talk about that last 20 minutes. In similar fashion to last week, in the second half, we kind of struck it back to basics a little bit. Kicked the corners, a couple of mauls. It just felt like, obviously, in the start of the season, we were doing a lot of kind of fancy tries from first phase, but to strip it back and just play like that away from home on a Friday night must have really pleased you.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes when you come to places like this on a cold winters or late autumn's evening, you've got to be able to roll your sleeves up and play that way. And it's a balance as well. We're not a team that just want to play pragmatic and kick everything. We have got dangerous strike runners, but I think it's key is that we actually earn the right to be able to play and to be able to use them all as a weapon, and then we can unleash the backs at the right time. It's a good place for us to be, and that's that balance. Then it's that game management, it's that control that we speak about, and that's ultimately up to the halfbacks. You can prep them. As coaches, you have 5 days to prep them during the week, and then it's over to them on match day. And I thought the balance was pretty good tonight. I think it's just having the respect for the ball again in the second half, and our discipline were the two main things that we're going to have to improve on for next week.
You mentioned kind of earning the right to play. Was that summed up by that Will Harry's try right at the end there? We kind of went through the phases, and then all of a sudden a little opening down the wing, and he's away, and that pretty much secured us the win, didn't it?
No, he's a dangerous player on that short side. I think if I was a front 5 forward, I wouldn't be defending Will Harry's down the wing. But yeah, I think we spoke in trying to regain that control in the second half when we were defending for large periods, to actually get back in shape and go through the phases. And I think, like you say, we held onto the ball really well there, and then the opportunity arises. Particularly later on in the game when teams start to tire, and that your back three and your backs can sort of spot those mismatches and try and exploit them, and Will did really well there with that.
Yeah, I know that they haven't been perhaps spectacular performances, but tell us how important this could be as a group. The fact that we've come away from home at 2 local derbies, 2 bonus point wins, it just feels like perhaps a kind of a real confidence boost to the last fortnight. Yeah,
well, obviously we had a disappointing couple of games, last championship game, and then obviously the first game of the B&I against Jersey, and we gathered as a group and sort of spoke about the standards and the expectations, and more so that was coming from the players as well, about how they want to drive that, and how they weren't happy with what they were producing. And I'm hoping that we have turned the corner. You've got to understand that if you don't turn up with the right mindset each week, then you come unstuck, and as coaches we'll be trying to make sure we enforce that. And I think the pennies dropped with the players as well, and I think, like you say, to come away with 2 bonus point win, 2 derby games, we're in a good position now in the group. Obviously we're taking the cup seriously, we want to kick on, so I think after that first loss now we've rebounded well, but obviously we'll have another huge challenge facing Scottish again next Saturday at our place. Yeah, you mentioned the fact that we're back at our place next week. 2 real tough games here, but how excited are we to get back home and on that surface? Yeah, no, the boys will be looking forward to getting back home. I still, obviously the 4G allows you to play a little bit more, but at the same time, what we've done I think really well over the last couple of weeks is actually we played a little bit higher up the field, and we're earning that right to then play. We know ourselves that if you're overplaying your own third and you make mistakes, then teams capitalise. So it's about earning that right, and it's about that balance, and it's a whole decision making process really. And the half-backs, we've got a relatively young set of half-backs, and they're learning all the time, but I think we're pretty happy on the whole, but we know that actually there's still a couple of gears to go. Yeah, we've kind of wrestled
wrestled our way back into the group now after these couple of weeks. Obviously Scottish next week if we're looking for a positive result there, and then we'll kind of as we said, wrestle our way back in, and there could be a real hunting against Jersey to kind of right those wrongs. So a really exciting few weeks ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be real nice to obviously, first and foremost, obviously we have to get the performance right next week. Like I said, we had 2 6-day turnarounds the last few weeks. To actually have a bigger turnaround now will give us a little bit more time on the training field to iron out a few areas, get the performance right next week. We can't look too far past that, but it would be quite nice to get the result next week and go over to Jersey with everything to play for.